Hello and welcome to the Berserk Gods from the Machine Master Mode Talkthrough videos. My name is Swinny and in this video we will go over Izax. Izax is a pretty long boss encounter, and if you have watched my hard mode guide you already know that we will be here a while. Again, I will do my best to explain our tactics to you as well as differences to hard mode. Phase 1 starts as soon as someone uses their temporary ability, same as in hard mode. The big difference to hard mode is that you can't take every swipe of Izax as a tank. In hard mode you can simply alternate between tanking a swipe and running into the yellow void beneath him. This is no longer possible in master mode because the debuff you get from the yellow void lasts a lot longer, so the whole group has to dodge the swipes. You see that the group is separated from the tank, so we don't have to move immediately. The tank places the first swipe on his position and runs to the group. Now the whole group has to move until the boss casts something different than his swipes. It's not easy for the tank to place these swipes. He always has to move 1.5 to 2 seconds later than the group, so the swipe locks into the old position. After a couple of swipes the boss casts his root ability, and the tank needs to CC break out of it because again he has to move so the group doesn't have to move. Fortunately at this point you can simply tank one swipe and don't die. As we run to the right here, someone gets cascade and needs to move out of the group. That's why the tank stays on the left and uses force speed to get out of the cleave in time after the return fire cast. We are approaching 96% boss life now, and phase 2 will soon start. In master mode you have 2 anchors instead of 1, and you need to deal with both of them. The mechanic is that the anchors keep you in place while Izax shoots rockets onto you. That means one way of doing this phase would be to kill the anchors before the rockets hit, but that's not how we do it. We bring both anchors to 50% life and then wait for one rocket to hit. This rocket will also kill the other anchor, but as a trade-off everyone gets 72k damage. You can reduce this with pretty much everything since it is AoE damage, so most players will only get 20 to 30k damage. Meanwhile, just like in hard mode, the energy drones shoot from the corners, most likely onto your healers. If they hit an amplifier, the amplifier will start casting and do much more damage than the energy drone. So your main objective as a healer is to not aim too many energy drones onto amplifiers. The cascade is still a thing in this phase, and we deal with it by sending all DPS on the anchor with the first rocket, indicated by the orange void around it. Then, when someone gets cascade, all DPS but the one with the cascade switch to the other anchor and make sure it is below 50% life. The tether droid can be reflected by the tanks, and with a little help from the healers who can use 4 damage GCDs onto it before they need to heal, it will fall in time. Make sure to interrupt the energy drone in your corner as a tank. The second part of phase 2 is loading up one amplifier to 4 stacks and aiming it onto Izax. This is done by me with the help of the healers, who most likely have aggro of the energy drone, and on the other side it is done by one DPS, because you don't need the DPS for the hull cutters in the middle, and this way the other tank is free to tank both energy drones on the opposite side of Izax, so they don't deal damage to the raid. Your objective here is to push Izax to 79% within 2 phases to start phase 3. So we will use raid buffs the second time Izax loses his shield. Now we just have to do the same thing again. This time it's my turn to AoE taunt and use deflection to reflect the tether droid with a little help of the healers. The tanks interrupt the energy drone, and I will interrupt the second cast while we wait for one rocket to spawn, which happened now. One amplifier unfortunately shoots through the middle, but it is all manageable. There's not a lot of damage if you play it correctly. Now I just damage the amplifier until it gets a stack. I damage the other amplifier, I move back to the first amplifier, aim both on it, and very important to use resilience here, so you don't take the last hit. This is another 40 to 50k damage if you don't use resilience. Always use force speed to get out of the rockets onto the anchors, not resilience or force shroud. Now we managed to push the boss to 79%, and now, unfortunately, phase 3 starts. If you have watched my hard mode guide, you already know what I think of phase 3, and let me tell you, in master mode, it hasn't gotten better. You know, it's really not interesting. It's just the same stuff over again. You just wait for 2.5–3 minutes, and it's just super annoying. So you AoE taunt in the middle, you kill the tethers. Meanwhile, 1 DPS already clicks, because you don't need the damage. You can just send Izax away right away. The healers pick up the tethers. Not a lot to do. And we just wait for Izax to return. Now the other tank uses AoE taunt, and I believe he used deflection here. You shouldn't do that because it's not 100% safe that it will be ready again. You have to do some interrupts now. It was a misclick, happens, you know, but it's not a deal breaker. So now you have to move the conductor to the boss, and both healers have to connect the conductor to the conduits on the corners, so you can click again. So that's what's happening now. We're interrupting the boss. That's why the voids spawn beneath this conductor. And you need to move the conductor constantly out of these voids, which is the big difference to hard mode. It doesn't make it more difficult, just makes it more tedious. And then you click immediately once you can. Now you have 4 tethers spawning, and you need to AoE taunt and use deflection as reflect, so they will die pretty quickly. The other tank can try to aggro one. If one survives, you know, you can talk to your DPS on which to focus and stuff like that. You can optimize here a lot, but all in all, it's just an annoying phase and nothing really has to be done. Once the tethers are down, one tank pulls one conduit and the other one conductor, and the other tank pulls the other conductor, and you need to connect them with the remaining pillars. And now you just have to save the conductor. Whenever the group interrupts Izax, a void will spawn beneath the conductor, and you have to pull it out of there. And you have to make sure to not pull too far in one direction, or the tethers will break, and you have to do it over, and you have to do it again. So, you know, just take care. Plan ahead a little bit, you know, just like I did here. I pulled him to the left so I can pull him to the right so he doesn't stand in the middle, you know, so I have more room to work with. And as soon as the boss reaches whatever, 70 stacks, 80 stacks, just click and you're done with this phase. Now the boss has 61 to 62, maybe 63% life, and we have another set of 4 tethers. The other tank will taunt them with deflection to reflect them. I advise you to spec into stun damage reduction as an assassin tank. It makes it a lot easier for the healers, and you don't really use that much DPS, right? Just play safe. This phase is no check whatsoever. Here we have Cascade jumping onto the boss and not pressing spacebar afterwards, so someone else got the Cascade. You know, little mistakes happen in this phase, but they are never a deal breaker. So always interrupt, and because there are no conductors here, the voids for the interrupts will spawn onto players. So you have to move out, and you have to still DPS the boss, and your goal is to reach 59% life here to reach phase 4. This is pretty easily done. You see we are at 54%, and whenever he casts through, he only gets 3 stacks. So it's not a big deal, even if you are at 63%. You can use reflect on these voids, you can use everything you want. And as soon as he reaches 59%, we will get to the very difficult phase 4. but I guess we will still take some time here. Because it's so fun to be in phase 3, right? It's so much fun. Okay, we're finally at 59%. So phase 4 starts, and I'm showing you the most difficult part here. The most difficult part is to aim the amplifiers. And you should always start with the amplifiers as the tank who are furthest away from Izax. Then you should aggro the amplifier the energy drone shoots on, and then the other one in front, right? So you are very safe when it comes to aggro for this whole phase now. You can use force pull one more time like I did, but you are very safe now that the furthest away amplifiers do not lose aggro onto you. So what you're doing is one amplifier, you shoot them on another amplifier, and then on the augmentation droid, I'm sorry. And the same goes for the boss. So always amplifier, amplifier, drone, amplifier, amplifier, boss. And you do that all over again. The most difficult part, which we will come to very soon, is when the boss switches position. When the boss switches position, you have to save one makeshift amplifier to not lose the stacks you have accumulated, to make sure the drone or the droid in the middle keeps active. That's what I'm doing here. I'm saving one and aiming the amplifier onto the saved one, and now I have an amplifier with 2 stacks, right? And I can aim it onto the augmentation drone or droid, augment droid, immediately again. So the augmentation droid never loses its stacks, and that's very important to clear the adds, because these adds, they hit like a truck, you know, they are very hard, and you need to use your defensive cooldowns, you need to use everything at your disposal to survive those. You can switch around guard, you can, for example, we always gave our mercenary DPS guard, because no matter what we did, he got aggro, right? Because he deals a lot more damage to the adds than anyone else. And so always know your group, right? Make your tactics around your group and not around players, not around what you heard, not around even this video. Think about what your group is good at, think about what your group excels at, and play to your strengths. So what we're doing right here is I'm aiming the amplifier outside of the group, because the boss is at 34%, so I don't want any amplifier into the group anymore, because it would just deal damage unnecessarily to everyone. And we wait for the despawn. Now the rocket phase starts. The rocket phase is pretty much same as in hard mode, except the hull cutters that spawn, and these hull cutters will be a problem next phase, and you will see that I have stun grenades in my quick bar, and these stun grenades are very important. You can use them in phase 4 as well, right? These hull cutters always do a laser cast, and this needs to be interrupted. You can use roar from your juggernauts and marauders, you can use flashbang, you can use AoE stuns, you know, like carbonite from power attacks. And you should use that in phase 4 as well as in phase 5, which we are approaching now. So I believe it was the last set of rockets, and now Skyvar spawns, phase 5. And our plan here is that both tanks take one tether closest to the boss, and the DPS focus the tethers on the other side. So Skyvar's always free, and you can move her outside of these voids that you already know from hard mode. So right now my job is to collect the hull cutters, and the other tank is moving Skyvar around. As soon as I have some hull cutters, I'd say like 4, whatever, you can CC them, you can use stun grenades onto them, roar again. As I said, you can use everything at your disposal, so you don't take too much damage. After roughly 1 minute, you can use deflection. So the healers get a little bit of relief, you know, because now we have the bubbles, you have hits from the boss, you have Skyvar moving around, the other tank takes a lot of damage, because he gets auto hits from the boss as well, and sometimes an explosion from Skyver. So my job here is to take as little damage as possible. And I think I did a pretty well job. These hull cutters, they just stand still sometimes. I just pull them together and set CC, as you saw now. A stun grenade came in. And I was never in real danger this try. It was very clean in comparison to our other tries. Now I use deflection because I know the boss will be gone within a minute. So before I don't use it, right, just use it. Just make it easier for your tanks. You see that one healer is dropping and he can heal himself now because I'm safe. I'm CCing them, I'm constantly calling CCs, and the other tank moves Skyver around just like in hard mode. There aren't a lot of differences here, it's just all a lot more hard hitting and has a lot more HP. So we're moving on to the conduits. Luckily for the other tank, he makes it, because he would have gotten flamed, you know, because he has, you know, whatever, not flaming him. He did a good job this time. So now you just move onto the middle and use your tether to get to Izax, and then you DPS him down. That's it. You have 8 people alive, everyone's ready, everyone wants this kill, and we'll just burn him down. You know, I could have switched stims, I could have used correct adrenals, but I really wanted to survive phase 5, that's why I used tank adrenal there and all my other defensive cooldowns. But that's about it. That is Izax's Nightmare, and the crucial phases are really phase 2 and phase 4. Phase 4 will give you headaches because you need a good interrupt rotation. You need to interrupt the hull cutters while damaging the boss, and that's pretty tough. Phase 2, if you do the burn tactic that you want to kill both anchors, also very tough choice. I wouldn't do it. If you're on progress, don't do stuff like that. If you want to farm him, sure, but progress means doing the easiest tactic possible, and that's not it, trust me. So this was a little series of talkthrough videos for Gods from the Machine Nightmare. I hope this helps you. We will see each other again maybe at 6.1, 6.2, and until then, have a nice day.